So what's today's date? April 23rd or something. Who knows?
22nd.
22nd?
So what are we looking at here? Narcissus?
No, we are looking
what are
at
we gonna talk about
daffodils,
today?
otherwise known as narcissi, which is a Latin word for
Daffodils
daffodils.
Garden. And that's a beautiful piece of property that was developed in the
So we're wondering if
1970s.
this is
And the
the
story
word
there was
that
that the
inspired the
couple
concept
bought
of
this
narcissus.
land to
Maybe,
turn
maybe
it
not.
into a
Shall we
working
Google?
farm. But it turned
Okay.
out that the land was too rugged, too stony to be of use for farming. And so they decided that instead they would simply plant 10,000 daffodils
Beautiful
and
countryside.
turn it into a garden. Of course,
Covered
today,
with
50 years later, the 10,000s turned
As far as the
into
eye can see.
100,000 daffodils. And now this place is visited by many
Explain that again to me.
tourists and
Well, one of the things we can do
to welcome the
sort of
spring.
make use
It's
of
daffodil is, of
blooming
course, a
season
spring
is
flower.
to,
So we're going there
foldable
at the
table
peak
and
season
chairs
at the
and
end
a
of
beautiful tea
April,
set.
and
We've got
hopefully
it.
we can
And
also
just
discuss this as a topic of our podcast, making do with what you have.
So it's a beautiful day in Connecticut here. 60 degrees and sunny. And did a little exercise indoors with a local group. And then we played a little pickleball.
I wandered
We got
lonely
the afternoon.
as a cloud
We could go
that
kayaking,
floats
which we did a
on
couple of
high
days ago, but it's
obrus
still a little
valleys
chilly.
and hills.
The water's chilly.
All at once, I saw a
But
crowd,
Natasha's big on
a
these flowers,
host
so
of
I'm
golden
happy to take a ride.
daffodils.
Less than
Beside
an
the
hour
lake,
drive.
beneath the trees,
Litchfield
fluttering and dancing in the
County, I
breeze.
guess you call it,
Yes.
in
Oft
Connecticut.
on
Yeah.
my couch I lie,
So we're
in vacant
talking
or
about
pensive mood,
having
and flash
fun
upon that
without
inward
spending a
eye,
lot of money.
which is the bliss
the
of
thought maybe?
solitude.
That's right.
And
That's
then my heart
the
with
topic of
pleasure
today.
fills
How
and
can we
dances with
turn,
the
as they
daffodils.
say, lemons
William
into lemonade?
Wordsworth, 1804.
And throughout our podcasts,
The
we
Mayflower
probably
Spa
discuss,
and
both of our interests. Bob likes hiking, kayaking, biking, and social groups. Whereas Natasha,
That's where we're at now.
I like gardens, books, art museums,
Yeah.
classical music, and so on. So we'll probably supplement each other's
The beautiful places.
wonderful pastimes and hobbies, and derive from each other's experiences common themes that help us to summarize our life experience and share it with our friends.
Excellent, yeah. So yeah, like she was saying, I retired at 59, and I lived sort of a frugal life. I didn't spend a lot of money on toys and stuff. So a lot of people, when they retire, they decide that they need to play golf, and it's more for social reasons. Most people who play golf aren't that good at golf, and it's sort of a frustrating sport to me, anyway. But I think people don't want to sit home and do nothing. And the golf courses are very pretty, so it's like taking a walk at a garden or someplace. It's beautiful landscape and stuff. So if you don't, I don't personally landscape my property to the till. Hate to bring it up, but my father and I were digging up the front lawn to put sod down,
S'mores.
and he had a heart attack. So I don't need a
Here
good
we are.
lawn at the cost.
Harkness
At the
Memorial
cost of
Park.
death.
Where are we?
You're at Harkness State
Yes, so
Park.
for Bob, gardening.
So here's
might
our map.
evoke, sad memories
We
of,
parked here in the block lot. We're going to walk
his
down towards the
childhood,
water.
and
and we'll
of course,
look
I
for the greenhouses
appreciate
along
that,
here.
But I hope that in the long run, our
So we're walking down
visits to
towards the water that
Connecticut
way. And we'll
gardens
loop
would,
around
soften that.
the edge of the water.
Yeah,
The
it
water
does.
tower straight ahead.
I do like to
Some
plant
other stuff.
gardens
Here's our
actually
parking
myself. Not so much flowers, but vegetables, things I can eat and enjoy. And I've actually have a house in Vernon, it's just a ranch house, but I'm building
is
a
a golf course
12-foot by
somewhere.
17-foot greenhouse
Yeah.
on the south end of the house. It's
old
attached to the
mansion.
house. the third door to the house, well, fourth door to the house,
It's surrounded by
kitchen.
water and there's beach area.
and
And
you can
over
walk straight
there,
into
there's
the
a
greenhouse.
walkway to the beach.
I built a couple greenhouses, but they're all separated from the house. So if you get 4 feet of snow or bad weather, you might not want to go to the greenhouse because it's not attached. But in this case, you can simply walk out of the house into this greenhouse. And the idea is to grow vegetables. It's just,
So
it's
it's
just
a nice
another
beach
pleasant
area
setting
here.
room. So
What do you think of the beach?
my house didn't have any windows on the south end. So midday, the sunshine wasn't coming in the house
So
at all.
earlier I
This is
pointed
my-
out the
one of my
water tower
solutions to
from
get
the
more
park.
sunlight. That's one of my
Just to
favorite
give you a
places.
landmark.
Is just sitting in direct sunlight or sunlight
Or
through a
sort of
window
along
because you
the
don't get
coast
the
here.
tan and the negative. But I think you get the vitamin D. So I definitely feel a lot better after
Yes.
sitting in the sun for a while.
Yes. So this is rule number 1. Get a lot more vitamin D into your life. And that's absolutely cheap and almost always free. And, that in and of itself will improve quality of your life tremendously. Not to mention making you look good in the dead of winter as you get a little suntan.
Yeah. So we don't have kids running around, so we do have a little bit more free time. We're both semi-retired or retired, so we're not working full-time. We both sort of have passive incomes that don't require a lot of activity to bring in some money. We keep that separate for now. Maybe another podcast we could talk about the beauty of passive income. But I do keep the cost of having fun low because bike riding costs you a bike. Might be a few $100s. I'm actually at a point now where I'm buying electric bikes for about $700. But again, I buy a low-end bike that does the job. But a lot of my friends have bought $4,000 bikes. I don't want an expensive bike because I actually keep it on the back of my van year round, sort of as a backup vehicle. But it's also easy to, you don't have to load up the bike when you want a bike ride. But if the van breaks down, I can hop on the bike. Or sometimes I use the bike to avoid large or headache parking fees, I'll call them. Some of the towns in Connecticut have $2 an hour parking, for example. And then on top of that, you have to find a spot, which is a headache. And then on top of that, sometimes it's 2-hour maximum. So if you don't get back to your vehicle in 2 hours, you still get the $75 fine or whatever what it's up to. It's been a while since I got a parking ticket. It's probably more than $75. But the bike is a handy tool as well as a toy, I call it.
And since we're talking about not just saving money, but turning adversity or challenges into something extremely beautiful or exceptional, let me also chime in to say that even though electrical bike might cost a little more than regular bike, but the other pleasure that Bob introduces with that is that I can also ride on the back of the bike so that the two of us can have a wonderful time. And of course, the electrical bike with a little power allows us to navigate the route without spending too much energy, too much muscle power. So that to me is turning lemons into lemonade.
There you go.
Making
Yeah.
something beautiful out of necessity of saving on parking fees or on gas or reaching inaccessible by car places. That's one example. And the other one I'm going to ask Bob now about his life coaching skills. Here too, he levels into lemonade by learning to be a life coach himself. So Bob,
Yeah, so some people say, well, I can't afford a life coach.
Hello.
And it took me a few years to
Hey,
actually
how you
break
doing?
down and spend $1,500 on a life
We're at
coach.
Bolton Lake,
and it was
floating
well worth
around.
the money to me.
Natasha's first
But
kayak
it's
experience,
a little
right?
painful to
Or maybe second or
pay someone
third.
a lot of money to give you some advice that
But
you
seems like
think you
she's still
should have,
smiling.
but
It's a good sign.
a third Well, to
We've
be honest with
kayaked all the
you,
way across the
I
lake.
paid
so
for
it's like
12 sessions. After
at
4
least a
sessions,
quarter mile, maybe half a mile so far.
I got a job that I liked, and that was probably from the life coach. Some confidence and some new ideas. And I branched
Dear, I think
out.
that was our
And
helicopter.
after 4 sessions, I took a
Give him a
break.
call. Tell him we'll be there in
Like
10
that,
minutes.
so
We're just goofing around.
Bottom line is, after about a year of not going
Honey, where
back,
are we? This
I
looks
was,
like
left with
Alice in
two
Wonderland.
sessions, which
No,
I did
it's,
use 5 years later.
Trump
But
Hotel.
My solution
Oh,
to
it works.
this whole life coaching thing is you can
And
take
look,
online
it's Grand
classes,
Central. Where are the
and
trucker
even certified
protesters?
classes,
And the other
some
protesters.
run a couple $100. So instead of spending
I think the news is fake.
$1,500
I've been listening
on a life coach,
too closely to that.
well, more. I mean, that's like the low end.
Fake
$1,500 in Connecticut. I'm talking,
conspiracy.
But then, it depends on the life coach.
What's wrong, dear?
But instead of doing that, what I ended up
Gold
doing, I got a little excited about the whole
finger.
life coaching
Yeah, I'm glad that ain't my kid.
profession, I'll have to say. And I said, whoa. No.
So to continue my conversation on do-it-yourself life coaching, my approach was I could take some classes. I went to udemy.com, udemy.com, and they have classes on everything you can dream of. It's an international training site. Classes usually a couple $100, drop down to $20 on a regular basis. I've taken 7 online life coaching classes, each of them about 60 hours long. And instead of spending $1,500, I'm spending $1,000. And I life coach myself along with my family and friends, whether they like it or not. But it seems to be working. So we're at Wickham Park waiting for the sun
Makes me dwell on the positive, not the negative. That's one of the lessons learned.
I guess it's a solar
The
eclipse.
lesson learned is to sort of
Which you
live in
can't
the
look at.
present,
So while
learn
we
from
sitting
the
here,
past,
I don't know.
plan a little for
We're
the
just
future,
gonna watch
but
the world go dark
don't plan your life
in
away
that light.
because the future may
Hopefully
never come,
stay light
or the future
until
changes
tonight
ultimately.
when it was dark. I guess.
80% of my effort, I like to concentrate on the present. 10% I'll think back of things I've done that I've learned, not mistakes, because every mistake is a lesson. And then 10%, another 10% I'll plan on the future. So keep track of your finances and a few other things in life, but just live in the present because that's what you can control. You can't control the past or the future.
Yeah. So so if we spoke about rule number 1, get more vitamin D in your life. So rule number 2, which is completely free, is to switch your focus from the challenges of the past or worries of the future right down to the present. And by switching the focus, you can feel a lot more. You can feel a lot more in control of your situation. You can feel relief from past or future.
Leave me alone.
And just relax a lot.
Yeah, the relaxing sort of comes natural when you get into that mode. Where another experience I had is when I went to the life coach. Around that time, I was about 50, and I sort of went through midlife crisis. But I'm always going through a midlife crisis, I figured. But my life had changed because I was a part-time teacher, professor at college, had a handyman business and a computer consultant business, 3 different jobs. I sort of dabbled in all of them. I never really put in more than 40 hours a week, so it wasn't like I was working day and night for my own businesses. They were actually easier than working full-time jobs. I did lack a little interaction with lots of people, so after going to life coach, like I mentioned, I went back to a 9-to-5 job, which involved teaching and computer training and computer setup. So a computer technician job with training.
Hello, how you doing?
And that was ideal. And it was a bunch of
I'm good. Hey, need a
social
ride?
workers,
Yes.
some psychiatrists, and all. So worked for a company that got contracts with the state, and then he went on welfare, state aid. This was their first point of contact for me. Health, psychological, housing.
organization, but the social workers were running around trying to help people on the streets. So it was a very positive group. Actually went very well into the contract, 10% contract up to the state. Somebody decided to lay off 10% people, and I wasn't one of them. I was surprised that they had to go to call me for. I was using a lot of vacation time to go tell them how if I did anything wrong. I used that playing. I was happy to leave. And after 7 years, I have a tendency to figure out the good, the bad, and the ugly. Beginning of process. So I was happy to leave. I did some nice time for time. And my goal was a life coach. And I've done a little life coaching, but I'm not really into trying to fix people that don't want to be fixed. So I just put a life coach myself. Blessed to have my girlfriend here in Natasha. Interested in creating podcasts and all the things that are less stressful than fighting with people about their lives. Have to share our story, maybe get back to other people that are left, but in the meantime, a broad spectrum of advice, more fun for us to do.
In fact, I had the same experience that came upon us in about 2009, 10, 11. My classes began to decline, and by 2014 I ended up teaching only 2 classes, which wasn't nearly enough. And out of sheer need, I started looking elsewhere, and since we had a house located by the beach, we know in a new community, newly built community, we noticed that many people who were going to the beach were looking at our houses with wonder and curiosity and sense of excitement that there's a new development by the beach. And it occurred to me that maybe some of the beachgoers would have liked to stay at our house for a day or two to enjoy themselves by the water. So I found this little company called Airbnb and advertised one of my rooms, and we had 3 rooms spare to let people stay. And out of that first experience, I learned a great deal about supply and demand, about needs of people as well as my needs as a host, and little by little it became it evolved from a supplemental income, almost like a hobby, into a sizable small business. And by 2018, I was able to quit teaching and dedicate my energies to my business entirely. And that in turn allowed me to retire gently without having to spend enormous amount of time or effort running this business, as it became more passive business with longer stays required by New York City, and at the same time bringing still very nice income for me to be free of it all and enjoy myself. And just as Bob, I am delighted to have met him and spend time together, adding on to the quality of each other's life.
Oh, sounds great to me. All right, so back to having fun without spending a lot of money. So some of my other hobbies, I like to do hiking, and it's more winter hiking. So we live in Connecticut. It snows. It seems to be snowing less, but it does get cold and brisk. But hiking in the winter in Connecticut is fun because the leaves are off the trees, so you can see a lot more of where you're hiking and stuff. And again, the bugs aren't there. And I have cross-country skis. If it gets too snowy, I can ski a little bit. But we just put these little tracks and walk on the ice and snow and explore. And it's always great exercise to get outside. And we do have enough days, even in the winter, that it might be 50 degrees and sunny, or 40 degrees and sunny. I've even been out at 0 degrees and sunny. And if you're hiking, you stay warm, so you enjoy it. It feels like a spring day. And the other thing I do in the summertime, since it's too buggy to hike, is I kayak. So again, for less than $1,000 in equipment, maybe even $300 if you go budget, you can get a kayak. And there's groups, so I don't go out alone. It's sort of boring, just like hiking alone. It's sort of boring. So all these little biking groups, hiking groups, kayaking groups, it's a social activity, and you get to make some friends. And again, you're not gabbing and talking and drinking, so it's all healthy.
Yes, and to my mind too, I've forever wanted to travel along the coast of Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and see that beautiful rugged coastline. But organizing such a trip could be cost prohibitive. Hotels are very expensive. There are very few cruises, and if you get on a cruise, which actually I did last summer, you only stay on land for like a couple of hours, 3-4 hours at the most. You get to see very, very little, interact very little, but yet you still pay a significant price. So it's more of a, cruise line to sort of do their own thing rather than let you do your thing. So it doesn't particularly work. It sort of, you tick a box that you did go around the coastline, but you actually haven't, because you haven't seen a thing.
I've been to Mystic Seaport, but I just got ice cream and got back on the boat, right? And
That's
you didn't
right.
really walk
That's
around.
right.
So
Kayaking is almost free, except the cost of your kayak and some very minor equipment that you need. And you get to see nature, you get to see people, you get to see the great country of ours. You can stay wherever you want, however you want, explore local highlights. You can, in fact, this is another idea that maybe Bob and I could spend a little time thinking about. We could weave together several kayaking routes, and then by staying someplace overnight on the way, we could dedicate a portion of time to seeing local cultural or natural attractions, so that in addition to communion with nature, we get a little bit of a insight into local life, local people, and history also. It's one of the oldest part of the country, which is rich with historical sites, with beautiful architecture, things to see, learn.
So I think that we're on a new page, but I've been kayaking for 20 years with the same group. There's a handful of groups I go with, but one's sort of my favorite. It's a beginner group. I'm the sweeper, so I make sure no one's left behind. The organizer is very fluent in the tides and the winds and all the things that could cause problems. And what we like to do is, after kayaking for maybe, a typical trip might be you find a boat launch, it's free to park there. You put your kayak in, you might kayak for a couple hours, find these gorgeous beaches that are not accessible even via boat, sit on a beach for a couple hours, enjoy the beach, swimming and all that, and then hop back in, kayak a couple hours or less back to the boat launch, and then find these beautiful parks with pavilions and fireplaces. And today we're at Daffodil World here, all these places that no one even takes the time to go to these parks anymore. They're so vacant. I guess everyone's happy watching TV, but we're not. Luckily, we're not TV buffs. We might watch a little YouTube to figure out where we're going next, but we're not going to watch Game of Thrones or some series every night for the rest of our life here. So, and like Natasha's saying, can put 2 kayaks on the van. I got a bike of 2 on the back of the van. We got our hiking boots, and we incorporate all these activities together. And we can incorporate now the cultural experience that Natasha's more proficient at.
Well, without Bob's support, as he's saying, it's dull to go hiking or kayaking by yourself, so it is dull to go to concerts and museums by yourself. You could do that, but the experience of sharing it with someone is absolutely priceless. So I do recommend that if you're single, if you're alone, that you get a friend, if not romantic partner, if that's a possibility or your inclination, and get connected. That's another rule 3, right?
Yeah, rule 3 is you can find groups that do things you're interested in, or even things that you might be interested in. I mean, if you want to learn how to kayak, Natasha hasn't done a lot of kayaking. She gets in the boat and she seems fine. But if you go out with a group, then you get the ins and outs quickly about how to be safe and all the fun and activities and places to go. To wander off on your own gets a little boring, and next thing you know, you maybe back watching TV because it's less boring. But the group I'm in, we get up to 20 people on a shot, and we kayak for the day. And it's a day trip, so we're not spending any money for rooms and boards and stuff, although we do go camping for a week in Rhode Island, because that's a bit of a ride, and there's lots of fine kayaking on the ocean, like Cape Cod area, but more Rhode Island before you get to Cape Cod. And but they're all day trips. You might spend an hour driving somewhere, but we spent an hour driving to see daffodils, so spending a day on the water, and no gas. Everyone's in their own vessel, so if you're not getting along, you can paddle away from each other. You don't have to talk to anyone in the group you don't want to, and you can paddle up next to people you want to talk to, and if they want to talk, great. If they don't, they paddle off. And then the potluck is not like, so the biking group has a restaurant. They go to the restaurant afterwards, but then the restaurant's, it's nice. You can pick your food. You don't have to bring anything up front. Our potluck dinners after kayaking requires a little planning, but you can bring a thing of hot dogs, or maybe even some salad or some snacks. We're getting old, so we don't want a bunch of junk food if possible. A little bit's fine.
Yeah.
But the biking group likes to go to restaurants, but sometimes you wait an hour to get served because there's 20 of us at the restaurant. And then if you get next to the wrong person, you got to talk to one person for 2-3 hours. That gets boring. The potluck, if you're sitting next to someone and the conversation goes south, you simply move your chair to another section of the group and continue. Or I like to just jump around. We play musical chairs. I get accused of stealing people's chairs, but then people get the idea that, I don't have to sit in this chair for the next 3 hours and talk to this person next to me. I can actually, circle the group and meet everyone.
Yes, that's wonderful part of picnicking. Imagine if you were at some kind of event, be it in a banqueting hall or big restaurant, and everyone gets a particular seat that is fixed for that evening, and if you're unlucky to sit next to some uncle or cousin who doesn't understand or is not willing to listen to what you have to say, your evening is gone south. But picnicking with a kayak group allows for that potluck event, which encourages you to circulate, connect with different people on different levels, and really pick and choose. So there is that flexibility and beauty in arranging your own experience. And I wanted to add another idea of how to turn challenges into possibilities, and that is by purchasing or acquiring, depending on your age. If you're a senior, you could get it for free. A thing called Passport to Art and Culture in Connecticut. This is a little book, pass book, that allows you to visit 32 art museums in the state of Connecticut. Practically in every town there is a wonderful art museum. And for free, once a year, you can use the little page out of that passport to go and have a quick look. If if you're not a regular museum goer, well, at least once a year, you can certainly spend a little time to enjoy the art treasures of our great state. I've gone to Wadsworth Athenaeum, which is a fabulous museum right in the heart of downtown Hartford. I've gone to New Britain Art Museum, Wallingford, of course, wonderful museums in New Haven, which are part of Yale University system. So there are treasures to see that are free, accessible to all, and are of the finest quality. Another way of going around discovering art is to go to college campuses. Many of the Ivy League colleges, such as Amherst, which is of course Massachusetts, but really not too far from us in Connecticut, would have fantastic art galleries. Many of them are bequests by the willing sponsors and perhaps graduates of the college, and collections are absolutely first class, and they are open to the public, free of charge. There's no problem, and that does enhance the quality of life. You can get to see the finest of the finest artists, both American, European, as well as many of the world arts. So highly encouraged. This is absolutely free, highly uplifting, and really adds to your quality of life.